We begin the Gemara at the bottom of Daf Gimel Amud Beis, the last narrow line. Tana Rabbanan, we learned Teizehu Shaita, who is in the category of a Shaita. We learned in the Mishnah about a Shaita that's potter from being Oile Regel. Hayetzi Yechidi Balayla, person that goes out alone at night. Va'alam bebeis hakvaris, person that sleeps in the beis hakvaris. V'makareyas kasusai, person that tears his clothing. So now itme, regarding this brayse, we learned the machlokes. Rav Huna said that shiur kulam bevasachas. He's only a shaita if he does all of these three things. But Rabbi Yochanan says, afilu b'achas man. The brayse is giving you three examples. Even if he does only one of them, he's a shaita. So the Gemara asks about this machlokes here. Hey chidami, what's the situation here? If he's doing one of these things and it's clear that he's doing it like a shaita, so then afilu b'chadanami. Shouldn't everyone agree that even if he only does one of them, that he's already a shaita? If it's being done in a way that it's clear that he's not doing it as a shaita, so then afilu kulanami loy. So then even if he does all three, if you can see that he's doing it for a certain reason, so there's no reason to define him as a shaita for this. And for the Gemara, la'olam deka'avad lahu derech shtos. When you see him doing what he's doing, you have no way to explain it, and it seems like he's doing it like a shaita. So, nevertheless, according to Rav Huna, you're going to have all three. Why? Because each one alone could be excused. The halam beveis hakvaris, person that goes and sleeps in a cemetery. So you could say the reason he's doing this, Eimer kedei shetishra alav ruach tomehu, the ka'avid. He's doing this because he wants that the spirit of impurity that's there in the beis hakvaris should rest upon him. As Rashi here says, he wants to be a machashiv. So he's not a shaita. He's doing it for this reason. A person that goes out alone at night and he looks like he's doing it as a shaita, but that alone I could also excuse. That he got very hot and he has to go out into the street. And a person also that tears his garments. I would say he's a person that's thinking. So therefore he's not realizing what he's doing. So while he's thinking, he's so involved in his thoughts that he starts tearing things. But then he's doing it derech shtos. In other words, as we could see no reason of why he's doing it. So as far as we can tell, he's doing it derech shtos. But nevertheless, the Gemara says you can still excuse it. If you see only one alone, so the Gemara is giving you an excuse that you could explain why a person would do this thing. But kivin davdinu lukulu. But now that he does all three things over here, so then have a look commission nagach sher chamer and gamal. This would be similar to the halacha of shiur amud, that when he gores three times, that he becomes a shiur amud. So he gored once a donkey, second time a camel, or first an ox, then a donkey, and then a camel. The halacha is that you don't say because he gored different animals, not the same animal. So I would say, well, he never gored one animal three times. No, but once he gored three times, I combine it, and I do say that he becomes a mu'at lakayl, for all three, for the donkey, for the camel, and for the ox. The same thing over here. If this person behaves like a shaita in these three different kinds of ways, but I combine all these behaviors, and I say that he's a mu'at and he's a shaita.
So it must be all three?
Yeah, according to Rav Huna. Rav Huna, this is Rav Chlaikis before, right? But this is Rav Huna's opinion.
If he does the same thing?
If he does the same thing three times, is a good question. According to what the Gemara is saying here, it looks like it would be a kal v'chomer, because we're saying even if he did three different things, so you would think to excuse each one separately. Nevertheless, I say, no, once he did all three, you combine them to say that he's a shaita. If he did all three times, one of these things three times, I would say Mistama for sure is a shaita. So the Gemara, Rav Papa said, Ishmi leila Rav Huna. If Rav Huna would have heard this that we learned in the Braisa, Ezeu Shaita, who is considered to be a Shaita? So the Braisa gives a whole different way of determining this. A person that loses and gives up, what do you give him? He doesn't have the value of anything and he gives it up. So Havahadabe, he would have had charata of what he said before, that you have to do all three, to sleep in a beis hakvaris, to go out alone at night, and to tear your garments in order to be considered a Shaita. According to what it says here, that if he just gives it, if he loses things that you give him, he's a shaita. So for sure, Rav Huna would agree that if he only has one of those signs that it said before, he would also be a shaita. But now the Gemara asks about this. The question was asked, Ki hava hadabe. When we say that he would have retracted from his opinion before, is it only that regarding this one, that if he tears his garments, he's considered to be a shaita? That's the one that we would have charata to say that once he tears his garments, it's not necessary that he should do anything else, to be considered a shaita. And why is that? The damyalahu, because this is very similar to a person that loses whatever you give him. He doesn't have the value of money or whatever you give him. The same thing, he's tearing a garment. And so therefore it's considered to be a shaita. But from the other things that we said, sleeping in the Beis HaKvaris or going out alone at night, that's not similar to someone that loses everything you give him. So maybe from that, he would not have charata. From that, he would say that you have to have other things to prove that he's a shaita. Oidilme, or maybe mikulu have a hadar. Since you see that a person that loses what you give him is considered to be a shaita, so any of the things alone that was mentioned before, whether sleeping in the Beis HaKvaris, whether tearing things, tearing his garments, or whether going out alone at night, each one separately should be a shaita. Teiku, the Gemara does not answer this question.
How many times does it have to be ma'abit kol ma shenei samloi?
It says here once l'chayra, zeh hamabit kol ma shenei samloi. So he's saying when could you say mabit kol ma shenei samloi? If you give a person $1 and he loses $1, and it's not a shaita. Yeah.
Has to happen a few times.
Apparently. So that's the question. How many times? I don't know. It's a good shayla. Yeah. Okay, can sein. Going back to the Mishnah, it said tumtum and androgenes are both potter of being oile regel and bringing the carbon of riyah. Tan Rabbanon in the Braise, it says in the pasuk Yeroa kol zechurcha, right? So we darshan as follows: Zechur. If we would just write the word Zechur, I would say lohaitzias anoshim. That says that the women are not mechuyev. Zechurcha. It says your zachar. So lohaitzi tumtum v'androgenes. This also comes to exclude a tumtum and androgenes as well. Then it says in the pasuk kol zechurcha. What does this mean? L'rabbis esaktanim. The kol comes to say that even ketanim, children, are also obligated to come b'yei regel. That's the brayse. Now, the Gemara now explains. The master said here in this brayse, zochor loitzias hanoshim. When it says zechurcha, this excludes women of the mitzvah to b'yei regel. Frak the Gemara halama likra. What do we need a pasuk for this? Mechti, let's see. Mitzvah say shazman gramahu. To b'yei regel is a mitzvah for a certain time. Any mitzvah say which is man grame, the women are potter. So why do we need a special pasuk here? Answers the Gemara, itzrich. Here you need a special pasuk. So because I would think to say neilef re'iyeh mahakol. Let's compare the re'iyeh that it says over here yirah kol schurcha to the pasuk that it says by Hakel, which we had before on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. Over there it says B'voichol Yisrael leira'os. The Gemara before said we compared the re'iyah of Oile Regel to the re'iyah of Hakel. So therefore I would say Mala Halon, just like by Hakel Noshim Chayavos, that the women are obligated. Afkan Noshim Chayavos. So too over here the women should be obligated to be Oile Regel. Kamash Malon, that's what the Braisa says, that the Torah has to tell us Zechur. Zechur is coming to exclude the women. Amamar, then the Tana said in the Braise, Zechurcha. Zechur? To say that the women are potter. From Oile Regel, to be Oile Regel. Amamar, the Tana said in the Braise, Zechurcha. Then it added Zechurcha, so that's another miut. Lohaitzi tumtum vandrogenes. This comes to exclude a tumtum and androgenes. So again, a tumtum is an individual that you don't see any signs whether he's a zachar or a nekeva, and androgenes is someone that has both simonim of a zachar and a nekeva. Frag the Gemara, bishleim androgenes itzrich. For an androgenes, we need a pasuk to say that he's potter. Why? Because sol kedai tachamina. I would think to say, since he has the simon of a zachar and of a nekeva, so he has a simon of a zachar. L'chayev. So maybe that should be enough of a reason that he should be chayev. Because even though he's not a full zachar, he's a zachar and a nekeva, so it's sort of a suffix if he's a zachar and a nekeva. But Taisus over here says, but nevertheless, I should say, it says in the Torah zachar, and he's a miktzah zachar. Maybe miktzah zachar is also chayev. So therefore I need to exclude him that he's not chayev. But sorry, the Gemara concludes regarding the androgenes. Kamash malan. That's why for the androgenes it's understood that I need the pasuk to tell me the bari b'fnei atzmehu, that he's not both a zachar and a nekeva, and therefore he is partially a zachar and he would be chayiv. But no, if he has both simanim, he's a creature for himself. He's his own min, and therefore he's potter. Ela tumtum, but when it comes to a tumtum, which you don't see any siman, whether he's a zachar or a nekeva, sfeikuhu. So he's a suffix. Do you need a pasuk to exclude a suffix from the mitzvah to be Oile Regel? Since he's a suffix, he can't be mechayev him. And Taisus actually over here says, what's the issue? Taisus says, if you're going to be mechayivim, we're talking also about bringing the carbon of Eilis Riyah. And he's going to bring a carbon that he's not obligated in, then it's going to be chulin that's being brought into the Azara. So then Taisus goes on further. There's a long Taisus here. Taisus says, how about bringing that carbon and making sort of a t'nai? If I'm obligated, then it's a carbon Eilis Riyah. If I'm not obligated, then it'll just be a simple nedava or something. So Taisus says, no, but it's going to come out that he brings the Eilis Riyah without smicha. And we're not going to obligate him to bring the carbon without smicha. Interesting thing. So according to Taisus, the issue is that we're being mevatel the mitzvah of smicha, and therefore it's going to be pashit that he's not supposed to bring this carbon. So therefore, why do we need a pasuk for this? So the Gemara answers, Amar Abaye, we're talking about not a full tumtum, that you could see no simonim at all. There is something of the siman that is a zachar that's outside that you could see, which means that in essence you can tell that this person is a zachar. But because the whole siman is not outside completely, so therefore the pasuk is saying zuchur that you have to have the siman that is a zachar completely. Otherwise he's pater. Amamar, the Tan and the Braisa said, Kol zuchur chol rabes esaktanim. When it says kol, it includes even children. Fragt the Gemara, how could that be? But vatnan in the Mishnah that we learned, chutz michere sheite v'katan, that a cotton is pater from being oile regel. Amar Abaye answers like kasha. It's not a question. Kam bekotten shiur lechinuch. The Braisa is speaking about a cotton that reached the age of chinuch and therefore is obligated. And kam bekotten shalei shiur lechinuch. The Mishnah is talking about a cotton that's too young, that didn't reach the age of chinuch. We had in Mishnah the machlokes of Beishamai and Basilul, what age that is. Fragt the Gemara, this is not a good answer. Cotton shiur lechinuch. The Rabbanani, even a cotton that reaches the age of chinuch, the whole mitzvah of chinuch is only with the Rabbanan. How could you say that kol zuchurcha is coming to add this? So the Gemara answers, Anachanami, you're right. Ikra asmachte ba'alma. In the Braisa, when it says that you're marbe from the word kol, the ketanim is just an asmachte. We're the chachamim or machayivim, and they're relying on this pasuk, but it's not really the source for it. It's really a takana from Chazal. So the Gemara asks, if so ve'ela kra l'mayasa. So the pasuk where it says the extra word of kol, what is it coming to tell me? Answers the Gemara, look at Achedim. This is what Achedim said in a Braisa. The Tanya, Achedim say, Hamakameitz, a person that gathers the filth or the dung that comes from dogs, and it's used for certain things. It's used, I think, for the hide, to work it out. And Vametzaref, Nechaishes, a person that works with the copper, they take it out of the ground and clean it out, and so on. And Vahabursi, a person that works with leather. These are all different kinds of people that they work with very dirty work, and they can't come together with everybody else to the Beis HaMikdash because people stay far away from them. So P'turim min ha're'iyah, they're patur to come to the Beis HaMikdash, mishum shenema kol zechurcha. How do you see this from kol zechurcha? This means as follows. Mishi yachal la'alois im kol zechurcha. Someone that's able to come together with everybody else. Yatzuelu, it excludes these kinds of people that have these kinds of jobs. She'enon ru'uyin la'alois im kol zechurcha. They can't come up together with everybody else. People stay far away from them because of the smell, and therefore they are patur to be eile regel. The women and the Evet Kanani that has not been freed is also patur. Says the Gemara, so the women are patur as we just said. It says zechurcha. Ela vodim, but the Evet Kanani minola. From where do we know he's patur? Amar Rav Huna says because Amakra the pasuk says El Pnei Ad Hashem, that Yirah Kol Zechurcha, everyone is coming to be Eile Regel to see the master of the Eibishter. Sagt the Gemara, so what does that mean? Mi she'en lo ela ad nechad. Who's obligated to come? Someone that has only one master. Yatzazeh, so this excludes this Evet Kanani sheyash li ad nechad. Besides Hashem, he also is serving a master, another master. Okay, so that's the source that Evet Kanani is patur. So the Gemara now asks him this. Fragt the Gemara, halama likra. What do we need a pasuk to say that a Evet Kanani is patur? Mechti, so let's see. Kol mitzvah sheisha chayev ba. Any mitzvah that a woman is obligated, Evet chayev ba. An Evet Kanani is obligated. Kol mitzvah she'eni isha chayev ba. Any mitzvah that a woman is not obligated, an Evet chayev ba. A Evet is also not chayev. That's the klal, that's the rule regarding every Evet Kanani. So if so, the Gomar, because there's the Gzeira Shava that we learn out, law miisha. From what it says by a woman, Rashi brings, it says pasuk over here, the kosav law, and it says oichuv shalaynit law. So we learn out these two psukim, law of isha to law of an evet, that evet is chayiv in mitzvahs only like an isha, not more. So why do we need a special pasuk here to say that an evet is patur to be eile regel? Omar Ravina, so Ravina answers, the pasuk over here that we bring is only needed. We're talking about an eved that's only a half eved, but he's already half free. He was owned by partners, let's say, and one of the partners freed him and the other one did not. And it's that individual that we're bringing the pasuk to say that he would be potter. Dekanami, and so Ravina says, I'll prove to you that even an eved that's only half eved is potter. Diktani, because in the Mishnah, the lashon the Mishnah says is noshim va'avodim she'enam mishachradim, and an eved that's not been freed. So my she'enam mishachradim. What does it mean when the Mishnah adds that he has not been freed? If it means that he's not been freed at all, listni avodim stana. Why can't it just say avodim? Obviously, a eved means he's not been freed. Elalav. Why does it add she'enam mishachradim? She'enam mishachradim legamri. We're even talking about an eved that was partially freed but wasn't fully freed. And my ninu, who is this? Half eved and half ben chayrin is what the Mishnah is saying, that you're going to be potter. Shma mina. So we see this from the lashon of the Mishnah that he would be potter. But if you remember, we learned in the bottom of Daf Beis Amud Aleph, or in the beginning of Beis Amud Beis, there the Gemara said that what Ravina says over here is only a Mishnah Rishayna, based on the opinion in the Chagigah that Beis Hillel had said that we don't force the master to free him. But after Beis Hillel retracted their opinion and agreed to Beis Shammai that we force the master to free a chetzi eved, chetzi ben chayrin, so he's already like he's freed, because it's just a matter of time that he's going to be freed, and therefore he will be chayiv.
Eved can only actually free what?
A regular yid. Regular yid, like a ger.
Let's go for yours.
Well, could be needs. The milah he actually did before already. I don't even know if there's anything additional that he has to do after he's freed. There's a Gemara in Yavamis about it, but kapanim he becomes a regular yid. Zok the Gemara, it said in the Mishnah, Chagigah, Vasuma, V'chayle, V'azokin. Person that's lame or blind or sick or old. So all these are potter. Tanur Rabbanan. So we learned in Abraisa, it says, we're going to get the mitzvah to be a regel, so it says regalim, right? Shalosh regalim bashana, tachigli bashana. So from regalim we learn out, prat lebali kavin. This excludes a person that has a kavin, which is basically an artificial leg. Dovar acher, another pshat, when it says regalim, prat lechige. This excludes a person that's lame, and also lechayla, a person that's sick, or lesuma, he's sick, he's blind, that is. L'zakin, he's old, l'she'eni yochel lalis beraglo, and he can't walk up with his feet from Yerushalayim to the Har HaBayis. So the Gemara asks, l'she'eni yochel lalis beraglo v'lasuyimai. When it adds that he can't go up with his feet, what is that coming to add? It already said all these different kinds of people that basically can't go up. So what else is there? Amar Rave, so Rave says, la'asuyei, this comes to add mefanki. People that are mefunik, a person that's like very, very particular, very delicate, and therefore it's hard for him to go up without shoes. As the Gemara here brings a pasuk, the pasuk says, "Kisavayu liris panai." When you come to the Beis Hamikdash to see me, the Eibusha says, "Mi bikirjeis miyatchem remois chatzerei." Who asks of you to come here and step into here with your shoes? So you have to walk up without shoes. So a person that's very delicate and he can't walk from Yerushalayim, he can't walk over there without shoes, so he is going to be potter. That's what, yeah, basically Istan is the same thing, yeah.
What's the problem with Summa is because of the rise?
That's what it looks, no, over here, well, we're going to see soon in the Gemara, it's going to bring about a Summa with one eye. But if a person that's blind with both eyes, so then the issue is that he can't walk up, he can't go up.
He can't walk up by himself.
Kind of chanami. And there, because he can't go up by himself, he's potter. There's other people as well. A chigger, if someone else helps him, maybe he can go up. But if he can't go up himself, he's potter. Soon we're going to talk about a person that's blind with one eye. We had it before already. So the Gemara Tani we learned in Abraisa, Orel va'atome, person that did not have a bris, and we're talking about someone that can't, because his brothers, when they made a bris, they passed away, so they can't make him a bris. Or a person which is tome. So both of these people, peturim min a re'iyah. They're potter from Riyah, and this means two things. They don't have to come to the Azara, and they don't also bring the carbon oil. They can't even send someone to bring a carbon oilless Riyah for them. So the Gemara explains, regarding a person that's Tameh, we understand why he's potter, even from sending someone to bring the carbon for them. Tichsiv, because the pasuk says, Uvasa Shama, that you come there into the Azara, and Vahavesem Shama, and you bring there the carbon oilless Riyah. And from this we learn out, Kol sheyeshnoi bibiyah. If you could fulfill the first part of the pasuk where it says uvasa that you can come, yeshnoi ba'ava. You also have the obligation to bring a carbon. But if you can't come, eine ba'ava. So you don't bring a carbon as well. You don't send anyone to bring a carbon for you. So therefore, a person that's tamei, he's not allowed to go into the azara, so he's potter. But a person that's Orel, so Minola, from where do we know that he's potter? He's allowed to come into the Azara, so he should be able to bring a carbon. So from where do we know he's potter? Answers the Gemara, Hamani Rabbi Kiva. This is following Rabbi Kiva's opinion. The Marbi Leila Orel Ketame. He is Marber from a pasuk that a Orel is actually like a person that's Tame. The Tanya, Rabbi Kiva Omer, the pasuk says, Ish, and this is talking about a person that's Tzarua or Zav, that he's not allowed to eat from the Kachim, so it says over there, Ish, L'Rabbi says Orel. That comes to add that a Orel is the same like a person which is Tame, which is someone that's a Tzarua or a Zav. So Orel has the same status, he can't come into the Beis HaMikdash and he can't bring a carbon as well. Specifically here, we're talking about Oilas Riyah. Maybe there's other carbonas you could send. There's Taisus here says there's other cases that you could send a carbon, but we're talking over here when you get Oilas Riyah.
Yeah, but you were hold that some carbonas yes, some carbonas no.
Yeah, there's a long Taisus about it. I'm not going to get into it. Tana Rabbanam, we learned in the Braise. Tamei Potter Minariyah. Person that's Tamei is Potter from coming to the Beis HaMikdash and bringing the carbon. Because the pasuk says, if you can come, so you have to bring the carbon as well. If you're not allowed to come into the Azara, so you don't have to bring the carbon either, you don't have to send anyone to bring the carbon for you. Now, Rabbi Yechanan ben Davoy Yoimer Mishum Rabbi Yehuda, he said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, we had this before, Suma ba'achas me'ino, a person that's blind with only one eye. Potter Minariyah, he's also potter from coming to the Beis HaMikdash. Why? Shenema Yireh Yeirah. Even though it says Yireh, but we can read it in both ways. We can read it as Yireh, and we could also read it as Yeirah. What does this mean? Kederech Shabal Lirais. Just like he's coming to be seen, that the Eibush is going to see him, and the Eibush sees you with two eyes. Kach ba leirais. So too, you're coming to be seen that you should be able to see with two eyes as well. Ma leirais b'shteyinov, just like Kaviyachal, the Eibush sees you completely with two eyes. Af leirais b'shteyinov, you should be seen also with your two eyes that are able to see. So therefore, you're potted even if you're blind with just one eye. Sagt the Gemara, Rav Huna kimoti lahai kra. When Rav Huna came to this pasuk we just quoted, which is Yireh Yeroeh, that you come to be seen and the Eibush sees you. So Bachi, he would cry in this pasuk, and he said, "Amar evet Rabbi mitzapalei l'roisei." A servant that his master was waiting to see him. That's the mitzvah to be oile regel. Yisrachik mimenu. Now has become distance from the Eibishter, and we can't be oile regel anymore. The Chsiv, the pasuk says, as was quoted before, "Ki savayu liris panai." You come to see me. Mi bikashes miyadchem remois chatzeira. And the Eibishter says, "I don't want this. Who asks from you to come here to step into my courtyard?" The Gemara here is going to bring a bunch of different Ameiraim regarding different psukim. When they read certain psukim, they would cry.
What's the connection of this pasuk to the...
Which one? Which pasuk? Which pasuk? Kisavayo lirais?
Yeah, to...
This is talking about coming to the Beis HaMikdash. And this is a pasuk in Yeshaya, which talks about the Yidden not coming. The Eibush says, I don't want to see you here. So that's why he cried.
Well, he's blind, so what...
No. This has nothing to do with the blind. This has nothing to do with blind. This is talking, Yireh Yeroah is going on the mitzvah to be Eile Regel. Right? Yireh Yirah means the mitzvah to be something you actually take out the Yireh Yirah because it's not connected to that. It's just Yireh. Right? So the mitzvah to be Eile Regel, when he came to this mitzvah, he cried because he said today, even though the Eibishter was always away after the Churban, exactly. So he cried about this. Rav Hone kimati lahai. Did I skip something here? No. Rav Hone kimati lahai kra. When Rav Hone came to the following pasuk, Bachi, he cried. It says, "V'zavachta shlomim v'achalta sham." The mitzvah then is you're regel, then you shech the carbon shlomim and you eat over there. Evet sherabai mitzapel lechel al shulchanai. And a servant that his master is waiting for him to come and eat by his table, Yisrachik mimenu. Now he has been distanced from him. The Chsiv, the pasuk says, Lamali roiv zivcheichem yomer Hashem. The Eibush says, I don't need all of your karbanis. When he arrived to this pasuk, Bachi cried. It says by Yosef, his brothers were so shocked they couldn't answer him. They were afraid of him. So now he said as follows: if by a person, a flesh of blood, that's rebuking you, you become so afraid. How much more so when the Eibishter comes and rebukes a person? How much more so we have to be afraid of what the Eibishter sees in us? Rabbi Elazar, when he arrived to the following pasuk, he would cry. It says, "Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul." Shmuel said to Shaul, "Lama hergastani lahales." Why did you make me angry to bring me up here? Lahales, I say, to bring me up here. So this is actually talking about after Shmuel passed away, And Shaul, there was a woman that was able to bring back his nefesh into this world. Balas Oiv, she's able to bring him back into this world to be able to talk to him. So she brought up the nefesh of Shmuel. So Shmuel said, why did you bring me up here? He was upset. Uma Shmuel at tzaddik. Now Shmuel, he was a great tzaddik. Hayi misyarem in adin. As we'll see soon, the Gemara is going to explain that when she brought his neshama, so he was afraid. He was afraid of judgment. Anu, so us, alachas kama v'kama, we should definitely be afraid of judgment. So now the Gemara explains, Shmuel Maihi. Where do we see there in the pasuk that Shmuel was afraid of judgment? The Chsiv, because the pasuk there says, Vatoima Aisha el Shaul, this woman that brought in the neshama of Shaul, she said to Shaul, Elikim reisi oilim. I saw the malachim and I saw them going up. It says oilim tremashma, plural. There were two that came. Originally, she only brought the neshama of Shmuel, but then she said there were two coming. Well, who are the two? Chad Shmuel, and the idach, and then who else came together with Shmuel? The Azal Shmuel v'asya l'Moshe ba'adei. Shmuel went and brought the neshama of Moshe together with him. Why did he bring the neshama of Moshe? Amalei, because Shmuel said to him, the neshama of Moshe, Dilma chas v'shalom l'dinim mitbeina. I'm afraid. I don't know why they brought my neshama here. Maybe I'm being brought to a din Torah. They want to judge me. Kumbadoi. So therefore I want you to come along with me to support me, and you should tell them the lekim milsa the kasvas by raisa the leikiyamte. There's nothing that you wrote in the Torah that I have not fulfilled. That's the story that happened over there. So B'kitzur, we learn out from here of how much a person should be worried about the day of judgment. Rabami kimati lahai krabachim. When Rabami came to the following pasuk, he would cry. So it says a pasuk where I think in Eicha we bring over here. Pasuk in Eicha. Yitem ba'afar piyu. You put earth into your mouth out of all the pain and suffering. And then it says, Ula yesh tikva. After all these pain and suffering, maybe there's still hope. So Amari would say about this pasuk, Kula hai, after all the different suffering the pasuk describes, and it only says, V'ulai, after all of this, maybe there's hope. Rabami kimati lahai krabachi. When Rabami came to the following pasuk, he would cry. It says, Bikshu tzedek, look for righteousness. Bikshu anava, look for humility. Ulai tisteru b'yoyim af Hashem. Maybe you could hide in the day when there's the anger of Hashem. So he would say, Kula hai, after everything you do what it says there in the pasuk, tzedek and anava, and still the pasuk says v'ulai, that it's only maybe. Rabasi kimati lahai krabachi. When he came to the following pasuk, he would cry. It says in the pasuk, sinu ra, you should hate evil, ve'evud toiv, and love good, ve'etzigu b'shar mishpat, and bring in the shar righteousness and judgment and justice, and ulai yechanan Hashem l'kei tzvos, and maybe the Eibush will show His grace to you. Again, he said the same thing. Kula hai, if even after you do all of this, and v'ulai, only maybe Hashem will show you His grace. Rav Yosef kimati lahai krabachim. When Rav Yosef came to the following pasuk, he would cry. It says v'yesh nispa b'loy mishpat. There's a person that passes away without any judgment. In other words, he passes away before his time. So Amar, he said, or some take out actually the girsa of Amar, and instead of Amar, the Gemara asks the question, is it taka possible that a person passes away before his time? So the Gemara says, yes, it is possible. So Rav Bevi bar Abaya have a shkiach gabei malach hamavis. The malach hamavis was by him a regular guest. So what happened? So Amalei l'shluchei, now Taisus over here says, the story that the Gemara is about to say is not a story that happened in the time of Rav Bevi bar Avaya. This is a story that happened much earlier, because the Gemara in Shabbos brings that this is a story that happened in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, and Rav Bevi bar Abaya lived much later. So this is a story that the Malach HaMaves told Rav Bevi bar Abaya. What happened? That one time, Amalei l'shluchei, the Malach HaMaves said to one of his messengers, Zil aisili Miriam megadla seir. Go and bring me the neshama, take away the life of Miriam, which is Megadla Seyed Neshaya. She braids the hairs of women. What happened? His messenger went, Azal, Aisile Miriam Megadla Dardiki. He brought the wrong Miriam, a Miriam that was raising children. Amalei, so the Malach HaMavis said to his shliach, Anna Miriam Megadla Seyed Neshaya Amrilach. I told you the woman that braids the hair of the women, not the one that's raising children. Amalei, so the messenger said to the Malach HaMavis, Yahachi Ahadra, should I give back her neshama? That she should continue living? Amalei, so the Malach HaMavis said, no, once you brought this neshama here, so he'll be part of that number of the people that are supposed to die now. So the question is, Elehechi, so Abaya asked the Malach HaMavis, Heichi, or maybe the Malach HaMavis himself actually asked his Shliach, Heichi Yachlisla, how are you able to take her life away? So what happened was, Havanekita Masara Biyada, she was holding a Masara, which is something in the oven, either a poker in the oven or like a shovel that she was using in the oven. Vahavis Ka Shagra, and she was turning on the fire in the oven. Tanura, and she was shoveling the oven. Shekalta, she took this fire of the oven, and she put it, I guess mistakenly, on her foot, and kotcha, and she burnt herself. And once that happened, isra mazla, she burnt herself, and her mazel became affected, that her mazel became weakened. When something negative happens to a person, so then that means that the mazel of the person gets affected. And once the mazel got weaker, vaisisa, I was able to bring her and take her neshama out. Okay, that's the story that the Malach HaMavis told Rav Bevi bar Abaye. So let's just finish this Inyan here. Amalei Rav Bevi bar Abaye. So Rav Bevi bar Abaye asks the Malach HaMavis, Islechu Rishusa lemevedachi? You have the permission to do such a thing, to take a person's neshama before it's his time? Amalei. So the Malach HaMavis tells him, but v'loik sivi yesh nispa b'lei mishpat? Yeah, doesn't it say in the pasuk we just quoted before that there's a person that passes away without judgment and then before his time? Amalei, so Rav Bevi bar Abaye argues back and says, but v'aksiv, there's a pasuk that says, doir hailach, there's a generation that leaves, and v'doir ban, there's a generation that comes. So from this pasuk, it sounds like everything has a specific time. There's a time when the people of a previous generation passes away, and when the next generation comes. Omar, so the Malach HaMavis says, okay, even if I take a neshama early, what happens is, dar inu luhu ana, I shepherd them, I don't give them over yet to where they go upstairs, until their time, their generation ends, and only when the time comes, then I give it over to Duma, which is the Malach that takes them to the place that they have to go. Okay, so he says he has the permission to take away their neshama earlier. Amalei Abayis, Rav Bevi bar Abaye, that it says to the Malach HaMavis, but Soif Shanei Mayavdis. These were extra years, not extra, these were actually years that this person was supposed to live, and you took away that life. What happens to those years? Who gets those years? Amar, so the Malach HaMavis said, if there's a Talmud Chacham, the Mavre B'milei, that he looks away from anyone that offended him, he doesn't care, even if someone insulted him, he doesn't respond. My sifna lohu. I add these years to him, and he takes the place of the other person that was supposed to live these years. That's the conclusion of the story. Mesayim b'tayv. Everyone should live out ha'ich t'syam v'shanim tayvis, and even more chaim nitzchim until the coming of Mashiach and weiter. Amen.